And welcome everyone to the webinar on online volunteering. My name is Annika Diederich, and we bring this webinar to you from the United Nations Volunteers Program's headquarters in Bonn, Germany. Thank you all very much for joining. What we would like to do today is tell you how you can find, select, and manage online volunteers to boost your agency's skills and capacity. This will then be followed by a hands-on demonstration of how to use the online volunteering platform to find and select online volunteers, and we will also share a few tips on online volunteer management.
To start off, I'd like to give you a quick overview of United Nations Volunteers. UN Volunteers mobilizes volunteers to support peace missions and development projects in the field. Also, since the year 2000, UNV provides support via the internet, via onlinevolunteering.org, which we'll be talking about today. On onlinevolunteering.org, non-profit organizations come together with people who want to volunteer. If you need expertise or capacity, you can find it just here. At the moment, we have about 550,000 volunteers that are available on our platform. And to be frank, currently there are a lot more volunteers on the platform than we have volunteer opportunities. So this means you usually receive quite a number of applications to each volunteer opportunity that you post. And this allows you to mobilize very qualified and motivated supporters. In the normal case, it only takes you about a week to start the collaboration. So that's quick expertise and capacity. And last but not least, it's worth mentioning, I think, the satisfaction with our volunteer work runs around 95%. So in 95% of the cases, the organizations are very confident with the work volunteers delivered. Who are these volunteers? Well, there are students, homemakers, but there are also highly skilled professionals. In general, we can say that 66% of our volunteers have a university degree. More than a third are working in the private sector. The average age is 30. The majority is also female and from the global south. So who can use the online volunteering service? There are 4 criteria. You have to be officially registered, you have to be a non-profit, you have to work towards sustainable development, and you have to be inclusive. You can also promote the service to your network and to public institutions around you, and they need to fulfill these 4 criteria. And then they are also eligible to use the service and make use of the capacity we provide. What can online volunteers do for you? There's a vast spectrum of what they are capable of. Basically everything you can do from a computer. Communication and outreach, developing and conceptualizing campaigns or designing promotion material, doing the layout for reports, also editing, reviewing translations, managing social media accounts. They also help you with reviewing project proposals or with data analysis, and they can also provide trainings or develop training material for you. At first, you register at onlinevolunteering.org. Afterwards, we check your eligibility according to the 4 criteria just lined out. Then you define and post your volunteering opportunities. We review and publish them, and then volunteers apply for them. Subsequently, you select the volunteers best suited in terms of expertise and motivation to your opportunity from a list of all the volunteers that apply to your organizations. And then you already start collaborating. At the end of the process, you provide feedback to each other, you issue a certificate for the volunteer who supported you. That's a simple path to online volunteering success. Now, I'd like to hand over to one of the organizations that's already using the online volunteering service, which is the Scoop Foundation from Ireland. And there's Andrew Sweeney with us today, who will tell you a bit about his experience with the online volunteering service. Hello, Andrew. Good to have you here. I'm very glad that you've been able to join us today. I just wanted to quickly ask you, what kind of tasks have you been working on together with online volunteers? What's the spectrum? Can you give any examples on that?
I can, of course, yeah. I joined the UNV around this time last year, actually. I was finding it very difficult to work with volunteers here in Ireland. Just kind of communication problems, commitment problems. Just it seemed to not work out, and we didn't have enough money that we needed volunteers. So we started on the UNV last summer, and we started with kind of social media managers. We had a professional accountant come on board, so she manages our accounts and our finances. And then I decided to kind of challenge the UNV, and I decided to create a cookbook. And I did successfully create the cookbook using designers, copy editors, content writers, proofers. They were all found for the UNV. Then after that, we created a website. The Scoop Foundation website was created entirely by 2 web developers from the UNV. Right now we're creating a new marketing team, and the social media managers are all coming from the UNV as well.
Well, that sounds great. When you've been cooperating in such comprehensive projects, for example, the website and the cookbook, how did you coordinate and manage all the volunteers at the same time? Did you have any recommendations for your colleagues on how to do this as practice advice, maybe?
I actually found a project manager, a professional business consultant, also from the UNV. So he's been really good. He works for a major private sector business consultancy. So he's really helping me, not only with the cookbook, with other projects on how to manage large amounts of volunteers with different skills. So we're able to grow in a big way.
Maybe a final question. Your overall experience, would you recommend the service? Have you had positive experiences throughout, or what's your resume on that?
Yeah, couldn't recommend it enough. For me personally and for my organization, it helped us get to a next level. It helped us reach out to a lot of professional volunteers that we wouldn't have reached before. It helped us network to a whole new demographic that we probably never would have reached out to on our own social media platforms. So yeah, and it suited me because I work remotely. I used to work in the city, but then I moved to the countryside and I travel a lot. So it was perfect for me. It was heaven sent, really. And it helped me develop a lot of projects, a lot of ideas. It helped me grow the team, and I'll definitely be using it into the future.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing. A very good impression on how you can really benefit from the online volunteering platform, because it's such a broad variety of tasks you've been mobilizing volunteers on. Well, thanks very much for taking the time and sharing your experience with us, Andrew.
Thank you very much, Michael. Thank you very much, Andrew, again for telling us your experience with online volunteers and how your organization benefited from their support. What I will do now is show you when you access our website, which is onlinevolunteering.org, your first step is to register a user account. You click the sign up button and come to the form where, as a new user, you get to select I represent an organization. From there, you enter your email address, create a password, and then we would ask you to provide us some basic information about yourself to first create your user account. You can select your preferred language that you want to see as a website's interface, which can be English, French, or Spanish, and just complete this short registration form, giving us a bit of information about yourself, which is for UNV's internal purposes only. None of this will be shared with online volunteers or other parties. That's important to note. You can also sign up for the online volunteering blog to receive news and updates on what's going on with the service. The next step after you created your user account and activated the account is to access your organization registration form. The first question you will be asked is to select the type of organization you represent, which can be a UN organization, a government institution, or an NGO. And for the purposes of this webinar, we'll select the NGO as an example to show you the NGO registration form. First piece of information, very basic, is your organization name, contact details, and the country in which you operate. Next, we ask you to provide a quick outline of your organization's mission and objectives, which you can either copy-paste from your organization's website or target here to give an overview of your organization's work. And this text will be shared once your organization has posted opportunities and is linked to the opportunities that are currently open, so that online volunteers who want to get more information about your organization can get it from here to get the overview. Next, you select from a drop-down menu your organization's focus, so you see the various areas against which you can tag your organization. And then we get to another part of the information that, again, will be used by UNV only, will not be shared outside, and which we use for the criteria of eligibility that my colleague Michael mentioned earlier on. So first, we ask you to provide 3 examples of projects and activities that your organization has been involved in the past or is currently involved in. Just a short summary of the project's or activity's purpose, background, maybe achievements. Next, you will need to enter information, contact information of 2 references who must be outside your organization. They can be partner organizations you've worked with, perhaps beneficiaries, anyone who can provide information about your organization's work. You can then upload your organization's logo, and then, and this is very important, your organization's certificate of registration as a non-profit organization, which should be a copy of the original, so it should be in whatever language, local language that your organization is registered in. Just upload a copy here. And finally, we would like to know a little bit about your first ideas of what you would like to ask online volunteers to do, the kind of projects you want to involve them in, and the kind of help you would like to get from online volunteers. Once you've completed this form, you will see a button here that says Submit to UNV. So this is what you click once you have entered all the required information. This information is then sent to us here at UNV's online volunteering service. We will verify the information, do a bit of background research on your organization, and if we see that it meets the eligibility criteria, we approve the organization account. And once your organization is approved, you gain access to the organization account. This is what the account will look like. You have tabs to guide you through basic sections through which you manage your online volunteering opportunities and you manage your online volunteers. And you have access to organization profile. If you click on your name here, the highlighted name at the top right-hand corner of the screen, to make any changes to the organization profile, but also to share your account with colleagues from your office or your team. So once you have created an account, you can invite colleagues to join so they can post their own online volunteering opportunities through this account. All you need to do is access the Administrators tab, enter your colleague's email address, click the Invite button, and your colleagues will receive a one-time login link through which they then create their own user profile through which they access the organization account. And this is useful, as you see. This way, when several people are sharing the account, you can see who is responsible for which online volunteering opportunity you post. The next step, of course, would be to create an online volunteering opportunity, which is basically a form in which you describe what it is exactly that you need online volunteers to do to support you. So this is what the form looks like. You have guidance, help from us to help you complete the form and answer the most relevant questions, and you will find more guidance on what kind of opportunities can be posted, what is the process, how do you collaborate with online volunteers at the bottom of each opportunity form. To show you a more detailed version, I will use an already existing opportunity. I will need to go through the Edit button. The first step in designing an online volunteering opportunity is to select the type of task in which you would like to involve the online volunteers. So you have a drop-down list and you select whatever task is most relevant, and the opportunity will be tagged to that and become easily searchable by online volunteers. Next is a description of the task, a summary of what you would like the online volunteers to do. And the more concrete you are in summarizing this task, the better it is, because this is the first information bit that volunteers searching for opportunities will see. So you want to make it descriptive so that volunteers know immediately what is involved. Once you have entered the title, next is more detailed description of what it is exactly that you would like the online volunteers to do. And you can expand this into a more detailed version by completing the additional information form. But here you can also include information about how you want to organize the collaboration, whether you want to have weekly Skype calls, how you want to communicate with the volunteers, anything that is useful logistical information for volunteers to have. Next, you select the number of online volunteers you want to involve. And this number, of course, depends on what it is that you would like the online volunteers to do. If you're looking for an online volunteer designer to help you design a campaign logo, for example, you would be asking for one volunteer to support, which is the easiest way to manage the collaboration. For translations, what works really well is to ask for two volunteers, one volunteer to do the actual translation and a second to proofread this translation before your office then does the final review and validation of the translation. For other tasks, such as research that you can break down into smaller areas, you can ask for a larger number of volunteers. So of course, online volunteers need to be managed, meaning you need to share the information they need with the volunteers. You need to monitor progress on the assignment. You need to coordinate the collaboration. So the more online volunteers you involve into a project at the same time, the more complex perhaps the coordination will be. So this is just something you would need to be aware of. Next in the opportunity form is the field relating to the background and objectives. And this is where we ask you to provide a bit of context context of the assignment and the project in which you would like to involve online volunteers. This is very useful information for online volunteers to have with which to catch their interest and motivate them to apply. So the more interesting you make the project, the better you can pitch it, the more applications you will receive from volunteers who want to support you. Next is a drop-down list where you tag the opportunity against the region or individual country that the project that the online volunteers participate in supports. Then in the specific requirements, you outline the skills and qualifications that the online volunteers need to bring to the project. And this, of course, is the information that volunteers need for them to assess whether or not they have the experience and the skills, whether they can apply your opportunity. Then we have the list of languages that online volunteers will need to communicate with you or to carry out the assignment. And finally, as a last bit of information, you give a rough estimate of how much time you think online volunteers would need to invest in this assignment. And then you click a button here that will also submit your opportunity to us at the Online Volunteering Service. We will then review the information you provide here and either get back to you with advice on how you can update the description, maybe break it down into smaller tasks, anything that anyone who is looking for opportunities to search and apply. It will appear in your list of managed opportunities, and you will receive applications from interested candidates. And once you have received the number of candidates you need, you yourself close this opportunity to anyone who is looking for opportunities to search and apply. It will appear in your list of managed opportunities, and you will receive applications from interested candidates. And once you have received the number of candidates you need, you yourself close this opportunity to further applications. Now, every time there is a new candidate who is interested in the task, you will receive a notification and access the next large section of your organization account, which is the Manage Volunteers page. Here you will see in chronological order all the applications that have come in to your various opportunities. So what you would do is click on an applicant's name to review the application form. You see the contact information of the volunteers at the top of the page, and then the information they provided about their motivation, experience, skills, and the CVs they can upload to their applications. From this information, we recommend that you select a few of the most qualified candidates and make a short list of these candidates, and then follow up by either testing their technical skills. For example, if you're looking for translations, you would send them a short paragraph from one of the documents you would like to have translated, and then compare to what they submit to help you select a volunteer whose translation skills best match your needs. If you have a more substantial role for the volunteers with maybe more complex responsibilities, it would be very useful to arrange a quick Skype interview with the shortlisted candidates just to get a better impression of their motivation and of their skills. The volunteers who you do not select, we would ask you to inform them and not keep them waiting for too long to get feedback on their applications, because usually volunteers apply with a lot of motivation and enthusiasm. They want to support you in the work. So as soon as you know that the candidates you see don't match your requirements, we would ask you to inform them, and the platform provides you a very easy way of doing so. All you need to do is tick the box in front of the names of the candidates you don't want to keep, click the rejection button, and here you can then send an automated message to the volunteers to thank them for their interest, informing them that you've selected someone else. If you reject the shortlisted candidates who maybe you've already been in closer contact with and you don't want them to receive this automated message, you can also deactivate the message. And as an organization account owner, you can of course also edit, adjust messages that the system sends to your applicants according to what works best for you. Okay, so you have informed the candidates you're not keeping, you have selected the online volunteers you want to involve in the task. The next step would be for you to share a briefing note containing all of the information that the online volunteers need to get started on the assignments. So this could be more detailed information about the project, so of course the documents that you would like the online volunteers to translate, how you will use the online volunteers' contributions, but also how you arrange the online collaboration with the volunteers. You'll have weekly check-in calls, how you wish to coordinate the volunteers. In many cases, for example, design-related cases, we recommend that you clarify from the beginning that copyright of the products to which the volunteers contribute, of course, are yours, belong to your organization and have the online volunteer agree to that. If you are in a situation where you share information that with the volunteers as part of the task that you don't want volunteers to share with third parties, have them agree to this in writing. Anything that is important on how you collaborate with the volunteers. The volunteers will then expect to receive communication from you. So if they have questions as they go along the assignment, it's really important to answer these questions and to really make sure that the online volunteers have all the information that they need to complete the assignment according to your expectations. And what is also important to mention, of course, is that the actual communication with your selected volunteers does not take place through this platform. It's by email, WhatsApp messages, other forms of online communication that you agree with the volunteers, but it's not captured on the platform here. Once the volunteers have submitted the products and have completed their task, we ask both you as the organization and the volunteer to complete respective feedback forms to tell us, and if you like, also tell each other how happy you were with the collaboration. I will quickly show you what this feedback form looks like. It's very basic information about how satisfied you were with the collaboration with the volunteers, where you just answer questions, the quality of the volunteers' contribution, whether deadlines were met, whether you would like to collaborate again with the volunteer, and then you can choose to share this feedback with the volunteer, but you can of course also decide to keep it confidential, in which case only we at the Online Volunteering Service have access to the feedback and have a very strict monitoring of the feedback that organizations submit, as well as the volunteers, to make sure that the online collaborations run smoothly, that both parties are happy with the collaboration. So if there are any issues that you report, we look into them and we follow up on the issues. Finally, once both you and the volunteer completed your feedback forms, you as the organization can issue a certificate of recognition to the volunteers to thank them for the collaboration. All you need to do is then click on a link to generate the certificate, which becomes available in the Online Volunteers account and looks like this. It just takes the information from the database, your organization logo that is uploaded to your profile, the volunteer's name, the name of the project, the title of the project the volunteer worked on, as well as the SDG that is associated with this project. And I think this completes the basic walkthrough of the website. I will hand back to my colleague Michael at this point.
Thank you very much, Annika, for your very comprehensive overview of the online volunteering service, for explaining not only how to make use of it, but also for the very useful recommendations on how to best manage volunteers. As you've already seen, the slide is currently shown. We have a multilingual support team that is there for you in English, French and Spanish, and whenever you have questions or you need advice on how to best pose your opportunity or how to register or any other information you may require, just get in touch with us. We'll be very happy to help.